By the time I turned 25, I had stopped expecting much from my family. Growing up, I was always the outsider. My older cousin Ethan got the expensive birthday parties. My younger sister Claire got the praise. I got whatever was left over after everyone else had been taken care of. Still, when my mother called and insisted on taking me to dinner for my 25th birthday, I said yes. Part of me hoped things might finally be different. The restaurant was one of the nicest places in the city. White tablecloths, soft music, crystal glasses. The kind of place my parents never chose unless they wanted to impress someone. When I arrived, my mother, Diane, was already seated. My father, Richard, sat beside her. Both were dressed more formally than usual. That should have been my first warning. "Happy birthday, sweetheart," my mother said with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. A wrapped gift sat beside her purse. For a moment, I felt like a child again. Maybe this dinner was really about celebrating. Maybe I had been wrong all these years. The waiter brought drinks. We exchanged small talk. Work. Weather. Traffic. Everything except the reason they had invited me. Then my father placed a leather folder on the table. My stomach tightened. The atmosphere shifted instantly. The birthday dinner was over. Whatever this was, it had been planned long before I arrived. My mother folded her hands together. "There's something we've needed to tell you for a long time."
Ist her.
Neither of them looked nervous. In fact, they looked prepared, like actors about to perform a scene they had rehearsed 100 times. My father pushed the folder closer to me. My mother took a deep breath. Then she said the words that changed everything. "You are adopted." The restaurant seemed to go silent, not because anyone else stopped talking, because my brain had. For several seconds, I couldn't process what I'd heard. Adopted? My entire life suddenly felt unstable. Every childhood memory, every family photo, every holiday, everything. I looked from my mother to my father. Neither looked emotional. Neither looked guilty. Instead, they looked like people waiting for a reaction, as if they expected tears, or anger, or both. But then my mother said something even worse, something I never imagined a parent could say to their child. And the moment those words left her mouth, I realized this dinner wasn't about telling me the truth. It was about getting rid of me. And what I discovered next would reveal a secret my family had spent 25 years trying to hide. Why would parents choose their daughter's 25th birthday to reveal she was adopted? The answer was far more shocking than Emily could imagine. I sat frozen in my chair. The word adopted echoed in my head over and over. For 25 years, my parents had never mentioned it. Not once. Not during childhood. Not during high school. Not when I graduated college. Not even when I moved into my first apartment. And now, on my 25th birthday, they decided it was finally time to tell me? Something didn't make sense. I looked at my father. "You're serious?" He nodded without hesitation. My mother reached into her purse and pulled out a small envelope. "We didn't want to do this earlier," she said calmly. "But certain circumstances have changed." Circumstances. The words sounded cold, like she was discussing a business arrangement instead of her daughter. I opened the envelope. Inside was a copy of adoption paperwork. My hands trembled as I flipped through the pages. Every document confirmed the same thing. I had been adopted when I was just a few months old. The signatures, the dates, the agency records, all real. 1,000 questions raced through my mind. Who were my biological parents? Why did they give me up? Did they ever think about me? Did they ever try to find me? But before I could ask any of those questions, my mother interrupted. There is another matter we need to discuss. I slowly looked up. The tone in her voice made my stomach sink. My father wouldn't meet my eyes. That told me everything. This wasn't over. Not even close. My mother slid another document across the table. A legal document, several pages long. What is this? I asked. Her expression hardened. We would like you to sign it.
Ist sehr her.
Sign what? A family release agreement. I blinked. What does that even mean? For the first time that evening, my mother smiled. But it wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who believed they were winning. It means we will no longer have any legal or financial obligations toward each other. I felt my pulse quicken. You invited me to my birthday dinner to ask me to sign paperwork? That's not entirely accurate. My mother folded her napkin neatly. We invited you here because this seemed like the appropriate time to separate our lives. Separate our lives. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Why now? The question hung in the air. Neither parent answered immediately. Then my father quietly said, Your grandmother's trust. Everything clicked. My grandmother, the only person in my family who had ever made me feel loved. She had passed away 2 years earlier. And suddenly I understood. This wasn't about adoption. This wasn't about honesty. This wasn't about family. It was about money. My mother finally leaned forward. There are certain benefits attached to the trust that will end soon. Benefits, not memories, not relationships. Benefits. The more she spoke, the more I realized something terrifying. They weren't afraid of losing me. They were afraid of losing access to something connected to me. And judging by the confidence on my mother's face, she believed she had everything under control. What she didn't know was that someone else had been watching our entire conversation from nearby. Someone connected to a secret far bigger than the one she had just revealed. And before the night was over, that secret was going to change all of our lives forever. As Emily tried to understand why her parents suddenly wanted her out of their lives, a stranger sitting only a few tables away made a move that would expose a 25-year-old secret. I wasn't sure what hurt more, learning I had been adopted, or realizing my parents seemed more concerned about paperwork than my feelings. For several moments, nobody spoke. The restaurant buzzed with quiet conversations around us, but our table felt frozen in time. I looked down at the documents again, then back at my parents. So that's it? I asked. You tell me I'm adopted, hand me legal papers, and expect me to walk away? My mother sighed dramatically. As usual, you're making this emotional. I almost laughed. Emotional? I had just discovered my entire life was built on a secret. My father shifted uncomfortably. Diane, but she cut him off.
No, Richard.
She deserves honesty. I noticed she used the word honesty only after hiding the truth for 25 years. The irony wasn't lost on me. What honesty? I asked. Because from where I'm sitting, this feels more like a business meeting. My mother's face tightened. For the first time all evening, I saw irritation. She hadn't expected resistance. She thought I would sign whatever she placed in front of me, then leave quietly, just like I always had. That's when I noticed something strange. 3 tables away sat a group of people. An older woman, a middle-aged couple, and a man around my age. They weren't eating. Not really. Every few moments, one of them glanced toward our table. At first, I assumed I was imagining it. But then the older woman looked directly at me. Not casually. Not by accident. She looked at me the way someone looks at a person they've been searching for. A chill ran down my spine. I quickly looked away. Maybe it was coincidence. Maybe I was just overwhelmed. My mother continued talking. Something about responsibilities. Something about moving forward. I barely heard any of it because the feeling wouldn't leave me. I looked back. The older woman was still watching. This time her eyes seemed filled with emotion, almost like she was trying not to cry. Then something happened. She whispered something to the woman beside her. The younger woman turned and looked directly at me. Her hand instantly flew to her mouth, as if she had seen a ghost. My pulse quickened. What was going on?
Who were these people?
And why were they staring at me? Meanwhile, my mother pushed the papers closer. You need to sign tonight. I looked at her. Tonight? Yes. Why the rush? Again, she hesitated. A tiny crack appeared in her confidence, because she knew exactly why, and she didn't want to say it out loud. Then my father surprised me. For the first time all evening he spoke firmly. Diane enough. The table fell silent. Even my mother looked shocked. My father rarely challenged her, but something in his expression had changed. 25 years of guilt seemed to be sitting behind his eyes. And then he said something that made my blood run cold. She deserves to know the whole truth. My mother immediately stood up.
No.
The word came out sharp, almost panicked. Not angry, afraid. And that's when I knew. There was another secret, a much bigger one. The adoption story was only the beginning. Across the room, the older woman suddenly rose from her chair. Tears filled her eyes, and she started walking toward our table. As the mysterious woman approached, Emily was about to learn why her parents had spent 25 years hiding the truth, and why this birthday dinner had been planned so carefully. The entire restaurant seemed to disappear around me. My attention was fixed on the woman walking toward our table. Every step she took felt unreal. I looked at my parents. My mother's face had gone pale. My father looked defeated. And somehow, that frightened me more than anything. The woman stopped beside our table. For a moment, nobody spoke. She simply stared at me. Her eyes moved across my face, studying every detail. Then tears slipped down her cheeks. I'm sorry, she said softly. I know this isn't the right way. I glanced between her and my parents. Do I know you? The question seemed to break her heart. No, she whispered. You don't. Behind her, The younger woman and the man had also stood up. They looked nervous, emotional, like they were witnessing something they had waited years to see. My mother suddenly pushed back her chair. "This is inappropriate." The woman ignored her completely. Her eyes never left mine. "My name is Sarah." Something about her voice felt familiar, even though I knew we'd never met. "I've been looking for you for a very long time." The words hit me like a wave. "Looking for me?" My father lowered his head. My mother looked furious. Then Sarah reached into her purse and carefully pulled out an old photograph. The edges were worn, clearly handled hundreds of times. She handed it to me. My hands shook as I took it. The picture showed a young woman holding a baby, a tiny infant wrapped in a yellow blanket. I stared at it, then stared harder, because that baby looked exactly like me. The same eyes, the same nose, the same birthmark near the ear. My stomach dropped. I slowly looked up. Sarah was crying openly now. "That's the last picture I ever took with you." Everything inside me froze. The restaurant vanished. The voices disappeared. The world narrowed to a single terrifying possibility.
No.
Sarah nodded. Yes. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it. "You." She took a shaky breath. "I'm your biological mother." Silence. Complete silence. I couldn't move, couldn't think, couldn't breathe. 25 years. 25 years of questions I never even knew I should ask. And suddenly the answer was standing right in front of me. Across the room, several diners were openly watching now. But I didn't care. Nothing else mattered. My entire life had changed in less than an hour. Why? I finally whispered. Sarah closed her eyes. Pain crossed her face. "Because I never gave you up." The words hit harder than anything else that night. "What?"
My voice barely came out.
"I never abandoned you." My pulse exploded. I turned toward my parents. Neither of them would look at me. Not one word. Not one denial. Nothing. And in that moment, I realized something horrifying. The story I'd been told wasn't just incomplete. It was a lie that had lasted 25 years. Sarah sat down slowly. "I have proof." My mother immediately snapped.
No.
But Sarah wasn't looking at her anymore.
She was looking at me.
Only me. Then she opened a folder. Inside were documents, letters, court records, and evidence that would expose everything my parents had hidden from me. What happened next would destroy the story they had spent 25 years protecting. Sarah claimed she never gave Emily away, and the documents in her folder were about to reveal a betrayal so shocking that everyone in the restaurant would witness the truth. The restaurant was so quiet that I could hear my own heartbeat. And then, a letter. A letter written 25 years ago, addressed to my parents. I unfolded it carefully. As I read the first few lines, my entire world shifted. Sarah had been only 19 when she gave birth to me. She was struggling financially, but had never intended to give me up. When she became seriously ill after delivery, she temporarily asked my parents, who were distant relatives, to care for me until she recovered. But by the time she got better, everything had changed. My parents had moved away. changed addresses, ignored her calls, returned her letters unopened. For years, Sarah fought through the courts trying to find me, but every attempt failed. She never stopped searching, never stopped hoping, never stopped loving me. Tears blurred my vision. I looked at my parents. Is this true? Neither answered. The silence was all the answer I needed. My mother finally spoke. We loved you. I swallowed hard. That wasn't my question. She looked away. My father's eyes filled with tears. We were afraid, he admitted. We couldn't have children. The confession hung heavily in the air. My father continued. When Sarah got sick, we cared for you. His voice broke. And we couldn't imagine losing you. So you stole me? The words came out sharper than I intended. My mother started crying. We thought we were giving you a better life. Sarah shook her head. You took away 25 years. No one argued, because no one could. For several moments, nobody spoke. The weight of the truth sat between us. Then something unexpected happened. I looked at Sarah. For the first time, I truly saw her, not as a stranger, not as a mystery, but as a woman who had spent 25 years searching for her child. A woman who never stopped fighting. A woman who never stopped loving me. And suddenly I understood something. I had lost 25 years, but I didn't want to lose another day. I stood up. Sarah looked terrified, as if she expected me to walk away. Instead, I stepped toward her and hugged her. She broke down instantly. Years of pain, years of hope, years of heartbreak, all released in a single moment. The entire restaurant watched silently. Some people were crying. Others simply stared. But none of that mattered. For the first time in my life, I knew the truth. When I finally pulled away, Sarah smiled through tears. The same smile I had seen in the photograph. The same smile I somehow recognized. Then I turned to my parents. They looked devastated, broken, ashamed. But despite everything, they were still the people who had raised me, the people who taught me to walk, to read, to ride a bike, to become who I was. They had done something terrible, but they had also loved me. And that truth was complicated. I need time, I told them. They both nodded, understanding, accepting. For the first time in years, there were no lies left, only truth and healing. 6 months later, Sarah and I were rebuilding what had been stolen from us. Slowly, one conversation at a time, one memory at a time. It wasn't easy, but it was real. As for my parents, our relationship changed forever. Trust takes time to rebuild, but forgiveness is possible. And sometimes family isn't defined by blood alone. It's defined by love. The love that finds you, the love that raises you, and the love that never gives up searching.